Hey, it's Ron McLean. Welcome to Hockey Talk on the Rock.
With Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
All right, here we are doing Hockey Talk on the Rock again in person. Look at us, reunited. So I'm Keith, this is Laura. We're on episode number 59.
I think so, yeah.
And today is the December the 15th, Wednesday. So we're going to talk a few things hockey, mainly about the Boudreau bump, as they're calling it. So take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not get too excited about what's going on with the Canucks. I mean, I think in a month we'll be able to see how real this is. But last night, the Canucks came back from that 3-0 goal deficit. And before that point, I was kind of a bit of a doubter. I was like, okay, they played Winnipeg on a back-to-back. They didn't play Hellebuck. And then the next game, they don't, again, back-to-back, don't play the starting goaltender. But last night, like, Columbus hasn't been great this year. They haven't been awful. They've been kind of meh. But I can guarantee that if that game happened under Travis Green, they were going to lose it like 6-1. There's no way they'd come back. And so exciting to see that they have some resilience and some kickback in their play. And then obviously that's not the only game that's happened. Like, they've just continued to win. Yeah, they beat Carolina, who's another good team. Again, they were missing Aho. They were on a back-to-back. But it's promising to see. And the thing that's really making me excited as a Canucks fan is the fact that we've had 3 games in a row now where Pettersson has done something really good. So yeah, that shootout goal, the Forsberg, that was very exciting. And then he scored goals in back-to-back games, and both of them, like, one of them was really nice off the rush, and then the next game, it was kind of banging in the rebound, but it's just nice to see him getting involved in the play. I really like that line with him and Garland and Podkolzin. I think they're really fun to watch. I really like Besser and Miller and Pearson on the power play with Horvat. So there's just some excitement to see, and Besser has also been noticeably better. So again, when they hired Boudreau, we were kind of like, okay, well, they can get the most out of these young stars, then that's probably all we can ask for. Did take a quick peek at the standings today because I can't help it. And, they dug themselves into quite a hole. But that being said, it is the Pacific Division. We've seen some teams fall off in the last couple weeks here, namely Edmonton and Calgary. But I also, and I mean, we can talk about them later, I still don't believe that Anaheim is for real. And I think their crash is going to come at some point. So if the Canucks kind of put themselves into this mix with San Jose and LA, which is kind of where they are right now, they might be the better of those 3 teams and they can squeak in. So all in all, weirdly positive week for the Canucks. I'm still kind of in disbelief that this is actually real, especially after the start of the season. So, but it's fun. It's fun watching the games again. That's all you can ask for.
For sure. There's hope again in Canuckland. And, like I told you yesterday, I almost turned the game off after 3-0, and I was like, no, these guys are playing for each other again. They're having fun again. Like, I'll see it out, and it was totally worth it. And it tells me 2 main things about Travis Green. It was like, he lost the room.
Yep.
That much is clear. And then, like we've talked about before, that it seems like he was really good at getting these young guys established as NHLers, but now that he's gotten a group that's been put together to take the next step, he really doesn't seem to know how to coach that way. And so I'm going to stick with my theory that, like, his next gig round, he'll be much more successful.
Okay.
And in years from now, we'll see if I'm proven right or wrong. But, it's pretty amazing to see the difference, and it's exciting and fun again. So,
yeah, and kind of building off of that, I guess this is something we can talk about in a month or so. If the season has been turned around and their hot play continues, I mean, they're obviously not going to win every game, but if they go on a bit of a run here, it's going to put themselves in a good position for playoffs. And if that happens, I don't know how to say this because, again, it was 8 years. It was way too long. But do we owe maybe Jim Benning an apology? Was it more the fact that Travis Green lost the room? And did the moves that he made this offseason actually pay off? And that kind of thing. But I think I'm going back. Again, it was just too long a period of time. And even listening to new Jim or Jim Rutherford coming in and talking about, they're going to go after players that are, if they're, 28, 29, they're only going to give them a couple-year deals. Like, he said that right out, and it's the way you do business now. And it's so nice just hearing kind of common sense.
A clear, concise plan, if you will.
Yeah, so, but, I mean, my theory kind of starting back last year when the Canucks had their, awful start to the season was that Green had lost the room. And I wonder, going into the room, how much of that would have been true, or if it was more this year.
I think at the beginning of last year, it might have been a combo of that and, like, the hurt in the roster of, like, losing the Markstrom and the Tanev and the Toffoli.
Yeah.
And Stetcher, too. So, and then with it carrying over this year, like, it just became so clear, especially with the change. So, it's fun. It's fun again. And I'm totally in agreement with you about Anaheim. I just don't see it sustainable, but you never know. Like, I feel like I felt most like this with Vegas in their expansion year. It was like, they can't sustain this all year, and then somehow they did. They've got some good young players. Maybe they do, but...
I mean, that Zegras goal to Milano was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was great. Great for hockey.
Yeah, and, like, I know Getzlaf is hurt right now, but he was playing unreal at the beginning of the season, too, so it was, like, kind of that mixing of the old and the new in terms of their cores. And I mean, Gibson is a very good goalie. I'll give them that. So if you have a kind of somewhat okay team behind him or in front of him, you probably have a chance. But I did not have them. Well, I had them last in the division. I think you did too. But I did not have them higher than the other two California teams. And, all three California teams have been somewhat surprising. I think San Jose and LA have kind of come back down to reality a bit in the last couple weeks, but it shows that this division is completely wide open, and even Calgary and Edmonton, who started the year so hot, have looked kind of normal or of late. So we'll see, and I mean that kind of comes into like with McDavid and Draisaitl, and we've talked about this a ton, but when you build your team around two players, as we know, once teams figure out how to shut them down, there's nothing else there. And I mean, I'll give some credit to the Leafs right now, but I think like Zach Hyman, obviously good fit with McDavid, but he's not going to be able to drive play on his own. He's essentially a side piece, I'm going to call him.
Yeah, and I mean, since the silly season, like his production's dropped off big time.
Yeah, and you look at like Michael Bunting, or who the Leafs replaced him with for way less of the cost of Hyman. He's been very effective in that role. So I'll give Dubas a bit of credit there, because I think it could have been easy to be like, no, we need to keep Hyman. He's such a core piece. But realizing that there were people out there who could fill that role for cheaper was smart. And yeah. Anyway, just some interesting thoughts in the Pacific.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll continue on that note with Edmonton a little bit, like, not to really get into their 6-game losing streak, but like their winning record went from, what was it, 16-5 to now 16-11.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big fall for someone who was looking pretty promising. And I was just talking to you about my hot take about how they're going to overpay for a goalie in a panic move before the end of November, which I got wrong. But I feel like if Ken Holland's not doing his work right now at looking at who's available, he's not doing his job, because Koskinen is maddeningly inconsistent, and even when he's playing well, it's not that well.
No.
And I don't think Smith coming back from injury is going to save everything.
I mean, he's 42?
I thought he was 39, but he's up there. But he's up there, yeah, for sure. So I mentioned to you, I can see a fit with Korpisalo from Columbus. He's obviously lost the starter job to Merzlikins. He's a UFA at the end of the year. He's a cap hit that I think Edmonton could make work. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but I'm also kind of surprised that we haven't seen them do something with this skid going on.
I think it's only a matter of time, and maybe it's something that they're trying to get to like the Christmas break and then reevaluate where they're at or something, or that's what they were hoping for. I mean, I assume they've been calling around on goalies, and I told you my gut feeling is they're going to go after Hudobin, and I just feel like that's an Oilers move, but maybe not. I can also see Korpisalo. I actually forgot about him. I know they've been rumored to be linked to him for a long time, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the net there, and if that helps steady some things. Because I mean, the other problem with Edmonton, again, not to get too into them, but their defense is not great.
No.
And so I don't know how much it matters who you put in net right now. They need to outscore their opponents to be successful, and that hasn't changed. So, yeah.
And the thing with Korpisalo versus Hudobin is, I think Edmonton would have to make it work where a goalie's going back in the deal, and I can't see Dallas doing that.
No, they're not going to take one.
Even with Bishop
retiring.
being done.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty set with Holtby and Ottinger. So I don't know if that would work for them.
Yeah.
It's tough to say, but I did hear, listening to Merrick and Friedman on the show today, that they're talking about Chychrun is apparently available.
Oh, really?
And he's got 2 or 3 more years at like less than $5 million.
Okay, that's interesting.
And they were saying Edmonton, that might be the move they make.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting, because isn't he more offensive too?
I don't know. This year he hasn't been.
Right, yeah.
But, I don't... it's tough to say, right?
Yeah. Anyway, they're an interesting team to watch. Any team with McDavid is obviously interesting. But yeah, the other team, I'll just briefly mention here, because again, when I did my peek at the NHL standings, I hadn't looked for a long time because it was too depressing. And I was surprised that Detroit is still in a playoff spot in the East. Mind you, it's the last wild card spot, and I know their goal differential is not great. But, I mean, that in itself, like, kind of similar to Anaheim, I did not expect them to be in that position right now. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs either, but props to them for having a solid start. And I know there's talk that their 3 rookies could finish 1, 2, 3 in, like, Rookie of the Year scoring. And now I'm forgetting who Raymond the third one is.
Was it Zadina?
No, Zadina's been around for a while, but there is a third one.
Okay.
Because there was mention about it, but yeah, Seider and Raymond being the 2 big ones. Is it Nedeljkovic? Is he still a rookie?
I thought he was Calder finalist last year.
Okay, maybe he was. Anyway, I'll look it up. I should have looked it up before saying it, but it just came out. Yeah, and Raymond looks like he was potentially the best player in his draft year. He looks like a very smart pick for Stevie Y, and Seider looks like he's also a solid D-man. So
yeah, who knew they were going to both take such a big step this year?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, quick shout out to the Wild.
Minnesota I thought was going to be good. I did not think they were going to be like maybe the best team in the NHL level good.
Yeah, they are sitting on top of the Central Division, and second place is Nashville, and who would have thought that too, right? Like, I had them as a playoff team, but not that high.
Yeah, the other one in that division that I think is interesting is Winnipeg, who I also expect to get back into playoff contention, but I think they're like 1 point behind Detroit right now in the playoff standings. Or, no, not Detroit, because that's the opposite division.
Yeah.
So they're 1 point below the last place team, or the last wild card, but I thought they were going to have a much better start. So, yeah. And yeah, Kaprizov has been insane from Minnesota.
Their whole team has been really impressive. I mean, other than that, COVID news, I guess.
COVID news, yeah. So not great. There's been a lot of postponements. Well, not a lot of postponements. There's been some postponements and a lot of teams having breakouts or players placed on COVID protocol. The Canucks placed 3 players, and I know the one that was kind of sketchy was Tucker Poolman because he was playing and then they called him off the ice. So you just got to hope that it didn't spread to anyone else. Mm-hmm. And that game, it was right like up to kind of the final hours whether or not it was going to be played because the Canucks were waiting for those test results to come back. And I just hope that, like, my gut reaction says that if it gets too much worse, they're going to have to take, like, a 2-week pause. And now would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
That obviously has an implication for the Olympics, which I also am pessimistic about happening right now. It sounds like the league has said that it's the player's choice. If they want to go, they can go. But there's going to be some very strict quarantining rules. And if there is a positive test, then they're probably going to end up, I think it's like missing 5 weeks or something. It's something crazy, like including the 2 for the Olympics.
Right.
So, I don't know. I really have very little faith that they're going to go. But I hope I'm wrong. And if they don't go, what someone suggested, I think it was Thomas Drance, was that they should do a World Cup of Hockey instead during that 2-week period that they already had sectioned off, which obviously would be dependent again on them not breaking for COVID, and at least give some international hockey during that time.
Yeah, I heard them talking about that on the Merit Show today as well, and they brought up how like Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle has like 1 event booked for that whole break.
Oh, okay.
And it's only like a University of Washington basketball game kind of thing.
Yeah.
And down the road, well, not down the road, but in Vegas, I think T-Mobile is their arena. Yeah. They've only got 3 events booked for that whole 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they're just saying like it's too bad they didn't plan ahead a little bit for a backup plan, because there's
options.
There's arenas available. Like not everyone's taking that 2-week time to just book right up with events kind of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, the other thing I guess tying into all of that is also in Ontario now they've reduced the number of fans in attendance to 50%. So for the Leafs and Sens, which for the Sens it probably doesn't matter. But and then like the Raptors and stuff too, right? They can only have 50% attendance. So hopefully it's not gonna go crazy again. And I really do hope that the league can push through this, but. You know, the Flames outbreak hasn't been great. Like, the Islanders dealt with it before. Carolina was dealing with it when they came to Vancouver. Now Vancouver has players testing positive. It's just, it feels like there's too many. And again, I'm not going to get too into it. But I'm just going to hope for the best that they can continue. Yeah,
hopefully. Fingers crossed. I know that they really, really don't want to.
Yeah.
But... you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, the 50% thing, and they also have enhanced protocols again, like stricter protocols for all the players and their families.
Yeah.
Up until January 7th, at least. So.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, they just canceled Calgary's game on Saturday against Columbus, so hopefully, like, it seems like Calgary's kind of where a lot of it kicked off from.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will just help contain it and you move forward.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. That's all I got.
I think that's all I got too.
All right. Well, here we go. That was a quick little hockey talk on the rock, and we will be back next time for big old episode 60.
Woo!